Have you ever wondered why a woman locks eyes with you for just a moment, then breaks it off as if the sight of you was too much to bear? That flicker of contact feels like a spark, but the sudden withdrawal leaves you restless, guessing, questioning yourself. You replay it over and over. Was it interest or rejection? Was it fear? Or was it control? That tiny, silent act can mess with your head more than 1,000 words ever could. Here's the brutal truth. Eye contact is a weapon. It's one of the most primal signals a woman can use to test you, to unsettle you, to draw you in without giving you anything solid. When she looks at you, she lets you taste the possibility of her attention. When she looks away, she snatches it back. And in that second, she owns your focus. That imbalance, her silence creating your chaos, is the oldest game in human attraction. Think about it. You're at a bar, standing with friends, maybe pretending not to notice her. She glances at you. Her eyes linger half a beat too long, and then she's gone, staring at her drink, her phone, her friend's face. You're left hooked, wondering if you should walk over, if you imagined it, if you'd look desperate. That hesitation, that's the trap. She has forced you into your own head, and once you're in there, you're not leading anymore. Why does she do it? Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's shyness, but often it's a test. Women test without saying a word. She wants to see if you'll chase after that sliver of attention. She wants to know if your confidence shatters when the spotlight moves away. Because if you break, if you start performing for her gaze, you've already lost. The frame is hers. Here's what most men do wrong. They chase the eye contact. They wait like addicts for her to look again, for another drop of validation. They start mirroring her energy, shifting posture, smiling, signaling interest without her earning it. And once she sees that she can control your attention so easily, your value drops. You've told her, without words, that her glance dictates your state of mind. You can't let that happen. You need to understand the psychology at play. That look and look away isn't just flirtation, it's control through scarcity. It's the same principle that drives markets, addictions and obsessions. When something appears, then vanishes, your brain assigns it more value. You think about it harder, you crave it more, and she knows this instinctively. She doesn't have to study psychology. Her entire life has been training her in the power of attention. So what's the move? Indifference. Not fake indifference, but real, grounded detachment. When her eyes find yours and disappear, you don't chase. You don't stare her down in a silent begging contest. You don't wait for her to return. You stay centered, calm, rooted. If you look back at all, it's steady, unhurried, and you're just as willing to let your gaze drift away first. That's the subtle dominance most men never master. Picture this: you're at a coffee shop. A woman 2 tables over glances at you, then looks away. Most guys would shift in their seat, fumble with their phone, try to catch her again. You don't. You keep reading, sipping, moving with your own rhythm. Later, she glances again. This time, you notice, but you don't break your flow. Eventually, she realizes you're not orbiting her, you're self-contained. That shift creates tension, because now she's the one wondering if she's being seen, if she's being ignored, if you're interested or not. You've flipped the power back into your hands without a single word. This isn't about arrogance, it's about anchoring yourself. A man who can stay unshaken in the face of a woman's subtle games radiates strength. That's what women really respond to, not your constant pursuit, not your eager decoding of every glance, but your ability to remain unbothered. When you hold that frame, you force her to qualify herself. She has to decide if she's willing to step closer, to reveal more, to risk rejection. And when she does, you'll know her interest is real, not just a fleeting tease. But don't get this wrong. Detachment isn't passivity. You're not ignoring women forever. You're simply refusing to let their micro-signals dictate your emotions. You can still engage, still approach, but you do it from a place of choice, not compulsion. You walk over because you want to, not because she threw you a breadcrumb of attention. That's the difference between a man she respects and a man she toys with. Ask yourself, how many times have you let a woman's glance control your night? How many hours have you wasted replaying a look in your head instead of moving forward? How much power have you handed over just because you couldn't sit with silence? That's the hidden cost of this game. It's not her glance that weakens you. It's your obsession with it. So next time it happens, remember, she's not showing you the truth. She's showing you the test. The truth only comes later, when you hold steady long enough to see whether she actually invests, whether she actually approaches, whether she's genuinely interested. Until then, it's smoke and mirrors, and your job isn't to chase shadows, it's to stand still, clear and unshaken. Have you ever done this and didn't realize it pushed her away? Tell me what happened. What's the hardest thing you've faced when trying to keep a woman's interest after that first glance? Drop your story below. Which mistake do you see yourself making the most? Be honest in the comments. You've felt it before, the moment her glance burns into you, then vanishes, leaving you stranded in silence. That silence is where the real battle happens. Not between you and her, but between you and your own mind. Because when she looks away, the noise in your head gets loud. Did she reject me? Did I misread it? Should I do something right now? Those questions pile up until you start performing, not living. That's where most men lose. Here's what you need to understand. Women thrive on emotional control that costs them nothing. A single look, a pause, a retreat. It shifts your entire mood if you let it. This is the essence of psychological power in dating. It's never about what's said. It's about how your nervous system reacts when something you want is dangled, then denied. And if you've never trained yourself to stay grounded, you'll lunge at every flicker of hope just to escape that discomfort. Let me give you a real example. A man I knew, let's call him David, met a woman at a party. She kept catching his eye, then looking away, smiling at someone else. He thought it was flirtation. By the end of the night, he was chasing her through rooms, adjusting his tone, trying to time his jokes to when she was paying attention. She never actually gave him more than those scattered crumbs. And when she finally left, he was standing there empty-handed, exhausted, humiliated, convinced he had messed it up. In reality, he never had anything. She never committed even once. The game was in his head, and he handed her all the power. What should David have done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's the hardest pill for most men to swallow. When you sense interest that doesn't stabilize, when her glance doesn't lead to action, your best move is to let it die. You don't chase smoke. You force clarity by refusing to play. If she's genuinely interested, she'll come closer. If she's not, then you lose nothing. But here's the tactic: you can't just do nothing passively. You need to own your frame. That means holding eye contact long enough to show calm strength, then breaking it yourself without rush, as though her existence barely rattled you. It means shifting your attention fully back to your world, your friends, your drink, your thoughts, without that restless scanning to see if she's watching. When you do this, you're not rejecting her. You're simply refusing to collapse into the vacuum she creates. Think about it in terms of negotiation. The one who flinches first loses. If she glances away and you scramble to respond, you've flinched. You've shown your eagerness to recover the connection. which tells her you value her attention more than she values yours. But if you don't flinch, if you remain steady, you've shown that her signal doesn't destabilize you. That steadiness is magnetic, because most men don't have it. Another story: I once watched a man in a cafe handle this perfectly. A woman looked at him, then looked away. He noticed, but he didn't chase. He turned a page in his book, leaned back in his chair. 5 minutes later, she looked again, longer this time. Still, he didn't fold. He nodded once, a slow, almost imperceptible acknowledgement, then went back to reading. Eventually, she got up, walked to the counter, and placed herself right in his path. She had to escalate, because his calmness forced her to make a real move if she wanted his attention. That's the difference between a man who leads and a man who follows glances. Now, let's cut deeper. Why is it so hard for men to resist? Because we're conditioned to believe attention equals opportunity. You grew up hungry for approval from parents, teachers, peers. When a woman's eyes give you that flash, it feels like oxygen. When she pulls away, it feels like suffocation. But the truth is, she's not taking anything from you. You're just addicted to the idea that her attention validates you. That addiction is what you have to kill. Here's a practical drill. Next time you're out and you notice a woman glancing at you, freeze yourself internally. Count to 3 before you even react. Let the silence sit in your body without rushing to fill it. If she looks away, relax your shoulders. Turn back to your world. And remind yourself, I wasn't built to chase shadows. That small delay rewires you. It teaches your nervous system that not every spark needs a sprint. Over time, this becomes natural, and you stop flinching at every disappearing signal. Because here's the deeper strategy: women don't just test your attraction, they test your self-possession. They want to see if you can handle uncertainty without crumbling. If you can't, you're forgettable. If you can, you're unforgettable. Most men think attraction is about lines, style, or status. In reality, it's about whether your presence feels steady or shaky when tension enters the room. That's the battlefield. So next time she looks at you, then looks away, ask yourself, are you going to follow her eyes like a desperate shadow? Or are you going to stand so still she has to come closer to see if you're real? Which mistake do you see yourself making most, chasing glances or overthinking silence? Have you ever caught yourself performing just to keep her eyes on you? Tell me about the time it happened. And if you managed to hold steady once, how did she react? Drop it in the comments. There's a darker layer to this game you may not have noticed yet. When she looks at you, then looks away, it isn't always about flirtation. Sometimes it's about control. She might already know you're attracted, and that fleeting glance becomes a leash. 1 second of connection, followed by absence, and suddenly your thoughts orbit her. You're no longer in command of your own focus. You're waiting for her to feed you again. That's not attraction, that's conditioning. And here's the cruel part: she doesn't even have to mean it. Many women deploy this unconsciously, without planning, because they've been practicing since adolescence. They've learned that a look, a smile, a turn of the head can bend a man's attention without her lifting a finger. Some use it for validation, some use it for sport, and others use it as leverage when they want to keep you interested but not committed. If you don't see through it, you'll confuse her scraps of attention for genuine investment. Picture this: you're dating a woman. She's grown colder lately, but every time you pull away, she throws you a sudden glance, a random moment of softness, a quick "I miss you" text. Then it's gone again. That cycle keeps you hooked. You tolerate her inconsistency because your brain clings to those scattered moments as proof she still cares. That's not connection. It's intermittent reinforcement. The same principle casinos use to trap gamblers. The jackpot never comes steady. It comes at random, and that randomness makes you addicted. If you've ever stayed up waiting for a text that never came, only to forgive her instantly when she dropped a 2-word reply the next morning, you know exactly what I mean. Her attention is the slot machine, and you keep pulling the lever, and just like in gambling, the house always wins. So how do you break this? By changing the rules of the game. When she looks at you and looks away, when she dangles attention, you don't reward it with pursuit. You don't spike your emotions up and down depending on her crumbs. Instead, you set a baseline. My energy doesn't move unless she moves with it consistently. That's your shield. That's your leverage. Let's go tactical. The next time you notice a woman doing this, whether it's across the room or in a relationship, pause, observe, but don't react. If she doesn't follow through with action, approach, engage, invest, then you don't move. This teaches your brain to value patterns, not sparks. You're not interested in fireworks that fizzle. You're interested in steady flame. And the only way to filter for that is to stop overvaluing glimpses of light. There's another practical move: reverse the frame. If she looks and pulls away, you hold her in your calm gaze once, then deliberately cut it off on your own terms. Don't look back immediately. Let her wonder what's going on in your mind. Let her feel the tension she tried to put on you. This isn't about playing cold. It's about proving to yourself that you decide when and where your focus lands. That tiny shift rewires the entire interaction. Suddenly, she's not the only one holding the cards. You need to see how powerful this is. Most men believe attraction is about chasing, proving, demonstrating worth. But real attraction, the kind that lasts, is about presence. And presence isn't loud. It isn't desperate. It's quiet, centered, unshaken. When she realizes her looks can't unbalance you, she has 2 choices: step forward genuinely, or step back permanently. Either way, you win. Because you've protected the one thing that matters most, your state. Now, let's take it further. Suppose you're already in a relationship, and she's mastered this game. She withdraws attention to punish you, then reappears when she wants something. Most men crumble here. They start begging for eye contact, affection, validation. But the more you beg, the colder she becomes. Why? Because you've proven you'll pay any price for her scraps. The antidote is brutal but effective. You stop rewarding inconsistency. If she pulls away, you don't chase, you live. You stay invested in your world, your mission, your work, your discipline. She has to step back into your orbit with consistency if she wants closeness again. That's how you break the cycle. You don't fight for her attention. You force her to either value you properly or lose you entirely. And make no mistake, the moment you stop dancing for glances is the moment she sees you as a man who cannot be controlled. That's the moment she feels both respect and fear. Respect, because she knows you won't be bent. Fear, because she realizes she can't manipulate you the way she manipulates others. And here's the secret: once you taste that kind of self-possession, you'll never want to go back. You'll start to see through the games instantly. What used to rattle you, her quick look, her sudden silence, will barely touch you. You'll measure women not by how intoxicating their signals are, but by how steady their investment is. That's when you stop chasing shadows and start commanding light. So tell me, have you ever been caught in that push-pull, where her sudden attention felt like hope, only to vanish and leave you restless? Did you ever notice how quickly you forgave inconsistency just because she looked at you again? Share your story below. And if you've managed to walk away from those games once, how did it change the way you see women? There's something you need to confront every time she looks at you, then looks away, and you let it dominate your thoughts. You're telling yourself a story. That story is, Her attention matters more than my own center of gravity. And once that belief sets in, every interaction becomes warped. You stop being a man who chooses. You become a man who waits to be chosen. That shift is invisible at first, but women feel it immediately. Think about how this plays out in the real world. You're at a gathering and she glances your way. Your pulse jumps. You start wondering if you should smile, move closer, say something clever. She looks away, and suddenly you're doubting, recalculating, overthinking. You're no longer anchored in the room, you're living inside her head, trying to guess what she's thinking. That is the moment you disappear as a man. She doesn't even need to reject you, because you've already abandoned yourself. Now, let's strip away the illusions. That glance is not love. It's not approval. It's not even interest unless she follows it with action. It's only a flicker of possibility, and possibility without proof is meaningless. The only reason it feels powerful is because you let your brain inflate it into a promise. That's where the suffering comes from, not from her, but from your own interpretation. So the real battlefield isn't her eyes, it's your discipline. Can you stop yourself from building castles out of glimpses? Can you sit with the discomfort of uncertainty without rushing to escape it? Most men can't. That's why they chase, why they overtalk, why they text too soon, why they lean in too far. They're desperate to collapse the tension into clarity, even if that clarity ends with rejection. They'd rather lose fast than stand strong in silence. But a man who can stay steady in silence, that man radiates danger, because he can't be rushed, can't be baited, can't be led. Here's how you practice it. Next time you notice a woman looking, flip your focus. Instead of asking, "What does this mean?" ask, "What do I want? Do I even want to engage her? Does she align with my standards? Does her behavior show consistency or just flickers?" By reframing the moment around your choice, you reverse the polarity. She is no longer the judge of your worth, you are the judge of hers. That single mental shift transforms everything, because it pulls you back into the driver's seat. Let me give you a scenario. A man, let's call him Alex, was used to being thrown off by women's subtle cues. At the gym, a woman often caught his eye, then turned away with a small smirk. He'd spend his whole workout distracted, trying to time his sets to match hers, lingering by machines she might use, hoping for another glance. Nothing ever came of it. He was stuck in the loop of chasing signals. One day, he changed the script. When she glanced, he acknowledged it with calm neutrality, then turned fully back to his training, headphones in, locked into his mission. After 2 weeks, she approached him, asking about his workout routine. Why? Because he refused to orbit her. He forced her to bridge the gap. That is how you separate genuine interest from empty performance. But you need to hear this clearly. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. You're not ignoring her because you hate women. You're ignoring the game because you love yourself. When you stop giving energy to fleeting signals, you free yourself to invest only in women who show up with intention. That doesn't just save you from manipulation, it saves you from wasting years on inconsistent partners who drain you. Here's a hard truth most men won't face if you keep rewarding scraps. You'll never experience devotion. If you keep bending to glances, you'll never inspire respect. Respect is born when she realizes you don't break for crumbs. It's born when she feels that to keep your attention, she has to offer more than a look. She has to offer herself fully. And if she won't, you won't suffer, because you never handed her your center in the first place. So next time it happens, ask yourself, am I interpreting this as more than it is? Am I chasing a ghost? Or am I willing to let silence do the work for me? Because silence is your ally. It reveals who's real and who's playing. It forces her to either close the gap or fade away. And either outcome protects your energy. That's the deeper truth of this game. It's not about decoding women. It's about disciplining yourself. Once you master that, you'll stop being the man who's controlled by her glance, and you'll become the man whose steadiness unsettles her. That's when she looks at you, looks away and comes back, because she can't shake the gravity you hold. Have you ever let a glance consume your night, only to regret how much space it took in your head? Have you ever flipped it and stayed grounded and noticed how differently she responded? Share it below. Which side of this game are you usually on? There's one more truth we need to dig into, and it's the one most men avoid. Sometimes she looks at you, then looks away, because she's not really interested. She's feeding on your reaction. She gets a charge out of knowing you're unsettled, distracted, waiting for more. It's not about romance, it's about power. And if you're honest, you've probably felt it before, that hollow sense of being played, even though she never said a word. This is the hidden cost of chasing signals you train women to believe that their smallest gestures are enough to keep you hooked. A half smile, a glance, a shift in tone, you reward it like it's gold. And once you do, she doesn't need to invest further. She doesn't need to respect you. You've already shown that your hunger is bigger than your standards. That's why you have to set a new law for yourself. Attention without action is worthless. A glance is nothing if it isn't followed by approach, engagement, or consistent energy. If you don't draw that line, you'll keep chasing ghosts, and she'll keep stringing you along. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're on a date, and she's giving you hot and cold vibes. 1 minute, she's locked in, asking you questions. The next, she's scrolling her phone, disengaged. Most men panic here. They double down, telling more stories, trying harder to win her focus back. Wrong move. Every time you fight for her attention, you tell her she can disrespect you and still get rewarded. The correct move, you withdraw, not in anger, not with drama. You simply pull your energy back. You slow your words. You lean into your own calm. You let silence stretch. That pressure forces her to make a choice: step up or sit in the discomfort she created. Either way, you don't bleed out trying to prove yourself. There's a story of a man, let's call him Marcus, who used to struggle with this. He'd be at dinners, pouring his heart out while women drifted in and out of attention. One day, he tried something new. When she looked away mid-conversation, instead of scrambling to keep her entertained, he stopped speaking. He sipped his drink, leaned back, and let the silence hang. Within seconds, she looked back at him, suddenly aware of her rudeness. That single act flipped the power dynamic. From then on, Marcus realized he didn't need to chase focus. He needed to command it by being willing to let go. And that's the essence of silent strength. Not demanding, not begging, just existing with so much composure that she has to rise to meet you or risk losing you. Most women aren't used to this. They're used to men scrambling, filling the void, tripping over themselves to keep the spark alive. When you refuse, you become unforgettable. Because you show her something rare, a man who won't sell himself cheap. Let's get brutally clear: if she only gives you fragments, she doesn't deserve your wholeness. If she only teases, she doesn't deserve your pursuit. The woman who truly values you won't play endless eye contact games. She'll step closer, she'll speak, she'll invest. She won't just glance and vanish, she'll show consistency. That's the difference between manipulation and interest. And your job is to separate the two, ruthlessly. But here's the deeper danger: if you keep rewarding the manipulation, you don't just waste time, you rewire yourself into weakness. You become the man who lives for crumbs. And once that identity sets in, it bleeds into every area of life. You'll chase bosses for scraps of praise. You'll beg friends for attention. You'll crave validation like oxygen. That's not attraction, that's slavery. So the shift is bigger than dating. It's about how you decide to live. Do you want to be the man who bends to every glance, or the man who knows his worth so deeply that no glance can bend him? When you start living this way, women notice, people notice. You carry yourself differently. You're not frantic, you're not needy, you're solid. And that solidity is the rarest signal of all. When she looks at you and looks away, you don't move, you don't question yourself. You don't create stories about what it means. You breathe, you hold, you continue. If she wants more, she'll come closer. If she doesn't, she'll fade. Either way, you win because you've stayed intact. That's the real secret. The glance never mattered. What mattered was whether you betrayed yourself when it came. So I'll leave you with this: she didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect. And once you protect it, once you guard your center like a fortress, no glance, no silence, no withdrawal will ever shake you again. That's when you become untouchable. Have you ever rewarded scraps and realized later that you sold yourself short? Have you ever drawn the line and felt her shift toward you instead? Be honest, what role have you played more often? The man chasing or the man commanding? Tell me in the comments.